Hello everybody, it's Asian Ghost here, and today we're going to be touching the topic of, is Charlie Kirk actually a racist? There's been numerous videos out there, primarily TikTok, that's been calling Charlie Kirk a racist person. Of course, a lot of them don't bring up any good points about him being racist other than he's Republican or he's white. So I'll be mainly focusing on one video that was about Charlie Kirk potentially being a racist. The video was made by a YouTuber named Hadi Rahim, and a month ago he made a video called Charlie Kirk is a Racist. Before anyone jumps into conclusion, yes, this was a month ago, and yes, Hadi acknowledged that Charlie Kirk was assassinated and that he was being respectful about it. And I'll give him props for that, for at least not being one of those leftists who are being really disrespectful towards a dead person. And while I'm fine with him disagreeing to Charlie Kirk to this day, that's completely fine, nobody has to agree with anyone. But what I would like to challenge Hadi on, respectfully, is that he still believes that what he said in this video was still correct. Now, the point of this video is not for me to change Hadi's viewpoints or anybody's viewpoints who are leftist or Democrat or whatever who's opposing Charlie Kirk's belief system. If you believe in something else, then that's fine. But if you're going to prompt something negative about someone without the receipts, then I will have a problem with that. So in this video, I'll be looking at Hadi's video about Charlie Kirk being racist and pointing out the flaws within the video. There's some points and some moments in Hadi's video that doesn't really add anything to Charlie Kirk being racist or really irrelevant, so I will be skipping them unless you want to watch the full video, because if you guys don't believe me that there are some irrelevant points in the video, I will be linking the video in the description down below, but please don't harass Hadi over this, okay?
Charlie Kirk is a racist and an idiot, and one of the largest voices on the right. His fame is a relatively new thing. He went from being known only by online political junkies like myself in the late 2010s.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank. I live as a capitalist, okay? I live what I believe. No. What do? I get charity every single year. Hold on. What's my salary? Less than his.
Charlie, take a seat.
Come on, Shank, let's go.
Charlie,
what are you doing?
Take a seat.
I don't really see how this adds to him being racist. My only assumption as to why Hadi added this into his video is to make Charlie Kirk look like this lunatic who's screaming at people. If Hadi adds some context to this clip as to why Charlie Kirk was being racist, then that would be a valid point. But he doesn't explain anything, he just shows us on the screen and be like, hey guys, look, Charlie Kirk, he's screaming at someone.
He even does the thing that Ben Shapiro does, where he debates random college students.
So you're comparing abortion to the Holocaust?
Absolutely I am. In fact, it's worse. It's worse.
He went to—
Again, doesn't explain the context. If you actually look at the full clip of Charlie Kirk debating about abortion with this college student, you'll understand what he's trying to explain.
Those people are unwanted.
So you're comparing abortion to the Holocaust?
Absolutely I am. In fact, it's worse. It's worse.
It's really not. I don't
It's
think it
45 million babies. It's nearly 8 times worse than the Holocaust. What's the moral difference between a small baby in the womb and a grown Jew who was killed at Auschwitz? What's the moral difference? One is older?
Is a person?
What species is the baby in the womb?
It's a human, but
Therefore, they should have human rights.
No!
They should have human rights.
I do not agree.
Oh, so small humans, no human rights. Grown humans, human rights.
It's not a small human, it's an embryo.
You just said it was a human species.
It's not a living human child.
Wait, it's not a what?
It's not a child.
But
it's not a living child.
It has a heartbeat. It has brain
That does
waves.
not make it a child.
Now before y'all say I'm American Republican, first of all, I'm not even American, and second off, I don't care about American politics, and the only reason why I am talking about a Republican of Charlie Kirk is because there is a bias towards him because he is a white Republican. Now, I'm not trying to say Charlie Kirk is perfect or anything, don't get me wrong, there is stuff I disagree with. Like for example, Charlie Kirk wants to get rid of abortion because that would be considering murdering the embryo. Yeah, I agree that people who are 18 or older that have intercourse with someone should give the child a chance, and don't get me wrong, there is some cases where that intercourse is not consensual or perhaps insensual. That is messed up, but at least give the child a chance, and maybe if you can't handle it, then you should put them up for adoption. But the thing I disagree with the abortion removal plan is when it comes to children, in particular young girls as in kids, who are unfortunately have to do some disturbing things with another person, and that causes them to get impregnated. And I would agree that that child should not be able, or should not be in the circumstance where she should procreate, because she has a chance of potentially dying with the embryo. So I would say that's one thing I disagree with Charlie Kirk's abortion removal. But other than that, the whole thing with like people who are aware of having intercourse, specifically adults, should understand that if you're gonna have intercourse with someone, you're gonna realize that there is a price to pay when it comes to things like this.
My college last year where I debated him and won. How do I know this? I didn't get clipped.
I find this point pretty arbitrary because I'm pretty sure someone who is a liberal or a Democrat or follows your political views would definitely record that and clip that on YouTube if you quote-unquote won. And you contradict yourself because you clearly got clipped when you were having a debate with Charlie Kirk. I'm pretty sure if you actually won the debate, you got a lot of praise from the internet.
So my question is about the Electoral College and why you guys support it. I think everyone's vote should count equally no matter which state you live in. Why do you guys support a system where candidates are forced to go to 7 swing states that are primarily urban, and leave rural America behind?
Yeah, so do you support the U.S. Senate? And how we
No,
elect?
I don't. But let's talk about the Electoral College and not change
Well,
that.
actually, it's related because the
Yes, that's why, I know. Oh, sorry, I'm going to stop interrupting.
I got 3 words in.
Continue.
Can I get 4?
Sure.
Thank you. Because the U.S. Senate is the same principle of the Electoral College. Okay, so therefore, in the original intent of the Electoral College, it's that the states elect the presidents. It's not a national popular project. We believe that's actually what makes America different, let me finish, than European projects, which is that we're first and foremost a collection of states. The states created the federal government did not create the states. And I think it's a beautiful thing that 7 very diverse states with black populations, Hispanic populations, working class white populations are going to determine the future of America, not just LA and New York. I think it's a very beautiful thing.
So 2 things. First off, the Electoral College doesn't make it so that states pick the president. You can win the presidency with 12 states in the Electoral College. What you're proposing is having 1 electoral vote per state, and that would be by the states. Second, there are only 9 cities in the U.S. with like 1 million people. It's pretty much impossible to win the Electoral College just by going to big cities. When Kamala Harris goes to Pennsylvania, she goes to big cities. When Trump goes to Pennsylvania, he goes to like more rural areas like in Butler, Pennsylvania. The big cities argument just doesn't seem to sit well with me. Why not pick the president the same way we pick every other governor in the country and every other office in the country?
Well, it's actually not how we do every other office. There are proportional elections across the country. However, again, it goes back to state representation. I want to get Vivek in here for a second. But I also have another question, which I think is important, which is, do you think that it's a good thing that candidates have to crisscross from Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin? Is there something good that comes out of the Electoral College?
I agree. I think we should get rid of it and pass a law requiring all candidates to visit every state at least once or twice.
Okay, but it's very important, and I just want to say, the objections to the Electoral College usually come from the left. I'm not saying that's necessarily, but it's typically. And it's important to know that both sides, quote unquote, benefit from states that are not as populated. For example, Democrats benefit from Delaware, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Washington, D.C., whereas Republicans will benefit from Montana, Wyoming, and the Dakotas. Not to mention also Hawaii benefits the Democrats. It's a tilt advantage for candidates that are actually able to represent the values of the industrial heartland, an area that has largely been forgotten. Vivek, do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo a lot of what Charlie said. I know this is one of your favorite ones, but I just add one thing to this, and I think it's important to understand that we don't even have to actually be so upset about it. There's a method to change it if we don't like it in the United States. It's called amending the Constitution. So this is part of the original rules of the road that the founders set into motion because they wanted to respect every state in the Union. Otherwise, some would just be steamrolled over. But if we don't like it, you can amend the Constitution, but the reason that's not going to happen is because the states of this union recognize the importance of their representation. So in a certain sense, it's just what the Founding Fathers wrote into the document in the first place. You're entitled to have a different point of view. You could persuade your fellow Americans to change it, but the reason that hasn't happened in 250 years is that the system that got us this far, it's been, for all of its faults, working pretty darn well to give us the greatest nation known to mankind that people said would not last more than a generation. And part of the reason why is that we gave that voice to every one of the states, not just the Californias and New Yorks of the world. Thank you, man, for the question. Appreciate it.
Again, I'm not really sure how Hadi won this. He just asked some questions and then they answered. I don't see how he quote-unquote won the debate over here.
Now, over the past few weeks, Charlie's been going on racist tirades online over Muslims in the United States. Actually, Islamophobia isn't racism. It is though. People who look vaguely Arab or brown get profiled as Muslims all the time.
Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is Charlie Kirk apparently being Islamophobic. Now, on surface level, you might think this is true because of Charlie Kirk's tweets. But the real thing, the more in-depth thing you have to realize is that he says Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. Because in Islam, they follow this religious legal system called Sharia. I hope I'm saying that correctly, please forgive me if I say this wrong, which follows Muslim traditions and culture. Now, why is that a bad thing? Because in the Sharia laws, it prevents people from consuming, importing, or doing sales when it comes to alcohol. Now, to some people, this might not be a big iffy because, you know, some people don't drink wine or beer or anything like that. But I know there's going to be a lot of people pissed that they can't drink wine, beer, or anything of that because of a law that follows an Islam tradition. Another thing that the Sharia law prohibits people from doing is having same sexual activity or same-sex marriage or same-sex relationships because they do not see that as a good thing under their law. Not to mention, the maximum penalty for having a same-sex relationship is that you could potentially die from this. And how do you think a lot of Americans is going to react that they cannot have a same-sex relationship in their country? Probably very much angry. Don't get me started with how the women are treated under the Sharia laws. Now, is Charlie Kirk being racist towards Muslim people? No. He just does not want Islam to be in the Western civilization or a law that's mandatory in the Western civilization. That's what he's saying. And for a more personal experience from mine, I am Filipino and my skin is brown. Does that mean I'm a Muslim? No. And when people say, oh, are you Chinese? Like, yeah, that can be infuriating, but you also got to realize that people who are from Asia, a good majority of the population that is big there is China, so I wouldn't really argue with them for assuming that I'm Chinese.
Sikhs get hate crimed because people think that they're Muslims because they're brown, wear turbans, and have beards. Charlie literally did this himself on Twitter when he mistook the mayor of Calgary for being Muslim when she was Sikh because she was brown.
Now, to be fair to Hadi, yes, not every Muslim wears a turban, and some men who wear turbans are from different groups. And I guess you can say that's one thing that Charlie Kirk has said that was wrong. But I don't see any concrete proof that Charlie Kirk was assuming that he was a Muslim because of his skin color. Turban, yeah, you can say that is one fault of Charlie Kirk. But that's like kind of the equivalent of me saying, oh, Africa has similar clothings. While yes, different parts of Africa have pretty similar clothings and some differences, how is it fair for a Westerner to realize that, oh, this guy was actually Sikh, not Muslim? It's kind of similar to how modern day people think that white people are Europeans and Americans are the same thing, which obviously that's not true. They both have different cultures and different traditions and different religions. But can you really blame people for assuming that white people are all just Americans because they look very similar to the Europeans?
So yeah, there is absolutely a racial component. But even if he wasn't racist and just Islamophobic, Islamophobia is still bigotry. So how is Charlie Kirk Islamophobic? That's what we'll be finding out on today's episode of Progressive Primers. First, take a look at his commentary about New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani, who is a self-described democratic socialist, surprised even progressives when he not only won the New York mayoral Democratic primary, but won it by 12 points. Mamdani is also incredibly based, so naturally Charlie Kirk would have a problem with him. Although the way he criticized him was interesting. He tweeted, "New York City is likely to elect a Muslim socialist as mayor. This is quickly becoming one of the biggest threats to our country. Pay attention." Interesting that Charlie thought it was important to highlight that he was Muslim.
Alright, let's touch about Zohran Mamdani being base. Because apparently he used a phrase that was very offensive that refers to something like this. Take a good moment to read all of this. And yeah, he says he wants to protect Jewish New Yorkers. But that's like the equivalent of me saying gas chambers and saying, oh yeah, we're gonna protect the Jewish people. Not to mention, Zoran wanted to defund the NYPD because they're racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. Right. Now, to go back onto the point where Charlie Kirk says that it's a threat that a Muslim is selected as a socialist mayor in NYC is a problem, because a lot of people from the left side of America will say, oh, he's a different race than a white person, let's elect him. Pretty similar to the Kamala Harris situation. And in an episode of Jubilee, in the video, you can see that Charlie Kirk is saying that Kamala Harris is just a DII, which basically means that she was only picked to be a candidate in the election because she was black and that she was a woman, not because of her education or her political status or her political experience, but just because of her ethnicity and gender, which totally didn't backfire on Californians. Now, Charlie Kirk should have probably worded this better because it makes it seem like he's going after Muslim people instead of the Muslim ideology or religion. Not to mention the waste of money on spending public funding on gender treatments for minors instead of focusing on, I don't know, hospital treatments or maybe police funding. Or no, I can't say police funding. He doesn't advocate for police. But basically, he should have done something that's more impactful in New York instead of just virtue signaling.
He could have just called them a socialist and his audience would have already had a reason to dislike him. Can you imagine if Kirk called someone a black socialist? How about a Jewish socialist? He would have been canceled even by the right.
Now, if Charlie Kirk said that why did you elect X race to become a mayor, then of course that would be racist. But you also gotta realize he put socialists as mayor, which Charlie Kirk finds that as a bad thing because there's disadvantages when it comes to socialism, such as economical reasons.
After Mamdani won the primary, Charlie tweeted this: 24 years ago, a group of Muslims killed 2,753 people on 9/11. Now a Muslim socialist is on pace to run New York City. Now, obviously, this is an absurdly Islamophobic thing to say. Zoran Mamdani is not a terrorist or even remotely has the same worldview as Al-Qaeda, and this tweet got a lot of pushback. Jessica Tarlov, the liberal panelist of Fox News' The Five, tweeted this in response: "Charlie, this is so gross and Islamophobic. Take it down." Charlie responded, "Debate me on the merits. Don't just throw out petty thought-terminating cliches. This isn't 2015. That doesn't work anymore. What Muslim country do you prefer to live in, Jessica? What Western city or country has improved as the Muslim population has increased? America's largest city was attacked by radical Islam 24 years ago, and now a similar form of that pernicious force is poised to capture City Hall. Be courageous enough as a liberal to call it out. I know deep down you are worried about what he will do. You were just too afraid to say it." Jessica responded, "I'm not afraid to say that I don't think Mamdani's vision for the city is a good one, and I think a lot of his policies are crazy. New York City is the home of capitalism, not socialism. I want more police funding, not to defund. BDS is repellent. We can't freeze rent, make everything free, but none of that has to do with him being Muslim." Charlie responded, "So the guy that's about to be NYC's next mayor wants to boycott and sanction Israel. First ever major candidate to say so, but that has totally nothing at all to do with him being Muslim? You know it does. You are just terrified about the social cost of saying it publicly. It's okay, I'll do it for you."
Alright lad, this is actually a very tough point to talk about that Hadi made, and I would say props to him for actually making a good argument. But I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat, so bear with me. Now, what I would say that is pretty messed up to say is that Charlie Kirk is not right for saying that the mayor of New York City is somehow connected to the Muslims who caused 9/11. And of course, the main motivation behind the 9/11 attack is because of religious and theological reasons. And besides, we don't have any concrete proof that he's trying to Islamify New York. But here's the thing, since Zoran is a Muslim, there has been an increase of Muslims moving towards New York, which isn't a bad thing in its own, but there's a lot of increase in terms of hate crimes towards Jewish people. But considering the war between Israel and Iran that's been going on since 2025, and considering the comments that Zoran made about the Jewish people is yikes. I'm not saying that all the Muslim people are causing the hate crimes, and I'm not trying to say Zoran is an anti-Semitist because I don't have any proof for that, but considering there's a clip of him being asked if he's gonna denounce the Sharia law in New York, he did not say yes or no to that answer, but I will still show you guys the clip so you guys can see it.
We don't want Sharia law! 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 I don't want Sharia law either. No, I don't want Sharia law. I want everybody to know what is Sharia law. Educate your people. Stop lying to the people.
And again, for everyone.
They lie to the people. They know what is Sharia law.
In this moment, what we were
that guy is speaking. You know what is Sharia law. Yes, do it. Denounce Hamas. Denounce Hamas.
They arrested.
I'm about LGBT, and I'm against Sharia law. So I would never support anybody who...
Now Zoran could have said, "Sir, I'll be with you in a minute," or could have just answered that very quickly. But because he didn't become blunt about whether or not he's going to implement the Sharia law into New York, that can imply many things, whether he's going to or he's not. But because he didn't say he verbally denounced it, it can imply that he could have done that. Because of this vagueness, it can be seen that Zoran is trying to Muslify New York and implement Islamic traditions, religions, and values into New York. I cannot deny it, the status of him being Muslim definitely influenced some people who are Muslim to go to New York. And heck, if the New York mayor was Filipino, I might be interested in moving to New York because maybe they carry my traditions, my values, and my viewpoints in certain things. Personally for me, I don't believe that he's going after him because of his race or his skin color, but because of the religion that comes with him. And while I don't have any personal problems with people who are Muslims, New York has 22.3% of people who are Muslim in New York. And what would happen if the Muslim population in New York doubled, or perhaps triple? Then they become the majority, and then they would probably have to accommodate laws that is related to Muslim politics. Thus, they have to integrate Islamic laws into New York. But, Asian Ghost, isn't Christianity bad because it promotes homophobia and don't they support slavery and stuff? So I don't see the problem with changing our religion. First off, there's no verse in the Bible that says God hates lesbians or gays or trans people. There's no verse in that. And with the whole slave part in the Bible saying, "Servants, be subject to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also the fraudulent." He's not trying to say that slavery is a good thing. He's trying to say to respect your masters because if you revolt, then there's going to be consequences. Again, I may be Christian and I might not follow Muslim traditions and I may not agree with Charlie Kirk says here, but I would understand that we also have to realize we have to conserve our culture within America. Because if we keep shifting our values, shifting our political views, shifting our traditions, then it's going to be less America and more of a different country. I'm not saying that New York should be predominantly white or anything, but I guarantee you if New York is predominantly Muslim, then they're going to have to change certain laws to accommodate that because, you know, the mayor is a socialist and he wants to be very accepting. So he's probably going to be very accepting to the fact that we should change the laws to fit in Muslim values because, you know, they're predominantly the majority of the population in New York if that were to happen. It's kind of like New Mexico. Since a good majority of the population is Mexican, they're obviously going to have to accommodate certain cultures and tradition that comes with the Mexican people. So it wouldn't really surprise me if New York becomes more Muslim as time goes on because of the increase of population with Muslim people. Now there's nothing wrong with there being a lot of people that come from an ethnic group. However, the problem is it's going to shift some of the culture and values that come from America. Now, even though New York is mostly Catholic, it wouldn't surprise me if Muslim becomes the predominant religion in New York because America was built on the foundation of Christianity. And if we keep eliminating Christianity from the framework of America, then it becomes less of America and more of a different country.
Jessica then finished with, "Have you seen all the white Christian and Jewish hipsters from Brooklyn that support BDS? It's not that he's Muslim. It's that he's wrong." Okay, so a lot to unpack there. First off, Jessica, we can't freeze the rent? What do you mean we can't freeze the rent? New York City has froze the rent a bunch of times within the last 10 years. They literally have a board that is dedicated to freezing the rent. It's not about can we do it, it's about if we should do it. Also, make everything free? Yeah, like free at the point of service, not literally make everything free. Zoran has literally gone line by line and explained how he's gonna pay for everything, but whatever.
I highly doubt that Zoran is gonna pay for everything on his own, considering he's just a mayor of New York. Because if he statistically pay for everyone, how do you think that's gonna affect everything within the economy? Because let's say Donald Trump, he pays for everything, right? Then how do you think that's gonna affect taxing, rent, and like basically everything that comes with a price tag, and would pretty much destroy the marketing in America?
It seems that Charlie thinks that Zoran's ideology is in, quote, similar form to Al-Qaeda, which is absurd. Zoran Mamdani is one of the most progressive politicians in the country. No person who says that they're for queer liberation is a radical Islamic fundamentalist. You're just being racist. And again, there is a racial component. If Zoran was a white Muslim, the attacks wouldn't be nearly as vile. Charlie also implies that Muslim immigration is ruining America's cities? How? He provides no evidence, so I did some digging. A few weeks ago, he tweeted out this. "This is New York. We are being conquered and they are rubbing it in our face. Islam is steadily enveloping the West." Then there's a video of a TikTok that shows Shia Muslims celebrating Ashura in New York. The TikTok adds intimidating music to scare the viewer. But then the music stops playing. Wow.
Now I'm pretty sure Charlie Kirk was just being a little jokey over here. But Charlie Kirk proves his point that Islam is slightly integrating into New York's religion. Therefore, Islam is going to be mainly the religion in New York.
What are Charlie Kirk's problems with Islam?
For anyone that has eyes to see and ears to hear and actually reads the Hadith and reads parts of the Quran, you know that conquest is an Islamic value. Islam has conquest values. They seek to take over land and territory.
Yes, because Christian countries definitely do not have a history of conquest. Absolutely no Christian majority society has ever done conquest in the name of God. But Hadi, these aren't recent examples. I mean, Islam wants to conquer the West in the modern day. So true. So let's look at the modern day. Since World War II, Afghanistan has invaded 0 countries. Algeria has invaded 0 countries. Bangladesh has invaded 0 countries. Egypt, 2. Iran, 0. Iraq, 3. Jordan, 1. Lebanon, 1. Malaysia, 0. Morocco, 0. Oman, 0. Pakistan, 1. Saudi Arabia, 1. Somalia, 1. Syria, 3. Tunisia, 0. Turkey, 1. Yemen, 1. Meanwhile, the peaceful West with the United States has only invaded 8 countries.
This is a mindset that is dominant, a worldview that is popularized in the Islamic Arab world. This video is going viral. It is worth listening to carefully. Play cut 245. If Israel laid down all of their weapons and said our military is no more, what would happen?
At this point in time, I don't believe they would come to a two-state solution after everything that's gone on.
No, that wasn't the question. If Israel disbanded its military, what would happen?
The Palestinians would take over, but they would let the Jews...
Okay.
Listen, not forcefully. This is how they operate. This is how Muslims operate Islamically. They let them live under them in jizya. They tax them and they let them live, and they take that tax and give it back to them. How do you think the Ottoman Empire worked and lasted 600 years? How do you think the Golden Age of Islam lasted for 300 years? Because this is history.
So, no, I just want to make sure I understand. So they would just take over mostly peacefully?
No, most definitely peacefully, because that's what.
Can you show me an example of Jews living peacefully under Islamic rule?
Most definitely.
Where?
When the Hamas had Israeli captives. Have you seen the
Israeli captives they killed?
They're not killed.
There was a 9-month-old baby that just got returned home as a corpse by Hamas. For the full video, you guys can subscribe to our podcast or YouTube channel. But understand that that young man, which is not an embodiment of all Muslims, I get along with a lot of Muslims, but that young man, who I do not believe is a vast minority, believes that the example of how Jews and Muslims should coexist in the Middle East is what happened when Hamas took these Jews hostage.
If Islam is a peaceful religion, how come the ones you have shown on screen, the majority of them have attacked the non-Islamic country as Judaism? While yes, I'm aware that the Crusaders, who were Catholic and Christian, have attacked Muslim countries out there from before time, you also got to realize the Muslim too also did conquest around the world too. It wasn't just the Catholics. Yeah, sure, they were pretty dominant and stuff, but it was also the Muslims as well. So if we're going to argue with the fact that Muslims did not conquer or attack as much as Christians in America did, well, we also can argue the fact that Muslims back then also did the same thing. I'm not trying to say Catholics and Christians were clean back then, don't get me wrong, they did do some stuff that was bad. But I can also say the same thing about Muslim. And if America is bad because of Christianity, then why not move to a more Middle East country or a more Arab country? Oh, what's that? You don't want to face country with Sharia laws? Because you could potentially be killed for having same-sex relationships? Gee, I wonder which religion is more likely to kill you, the Christians or the Islams? And who made the Sharia law? Well, who could it be? Oh, it's Allah. And what did God made in terms of Christianity? God made the 10 Commandments, and none of the 10 Commandments say anything that would violate human rights. And God did not say that if you violate any of these 10 Commandments, then you would be dead or you would be prosecuted for it.
General William Boykin gave a speech recounting his confrontation with the Muslim warlord in Somalia in the 90s and saying that he won because, quote, "my God was bigger." Or how about when George Bush referred to the war on terror as a crusade?
This crusade, this war on terrorism, is going to take a while.
Or how about when George Bush said that he invaded Iraq because God told him to?
Yes, what William Boykin and George Bush had said is bad, because what they said was using the Lord's name in vain, because the Lord has never said to conquer or attack other countries, and using the Lord's name in vain is a bad thing. And you're meaning to tell me that the Quran that Allah made said that you should not kill anyone? Well, Asian Ghost, didn't David kill a lot of people in the name of God? Well, yes, David killed people, but the people back in the Bible were definitely going to kill the Israelites who were God's followers at the time. And God does not condone violence. However, Matthew 26 verse 52 says, where Jesus tells Peter, "Put your sword back in its place, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword." Which pretty much means that if you attempt to draw your weapon at someone, then the weapon can also be drawn back to you. So with the whole David killing people thing, he's mostly doing it out of self-defense, and because, you know, these people probably have killed other people as well, so it's only natural for them to have the same cause of effect to them. David didn't kill everyone who was opposed to God, because if that was true, then why didn't David kill Saul when he had the chance? When Saul was giving into the sin of envy and hatred towards David. While yes, the Crusaders were Catholic and not Christians per se, and Islam and other countries that follow a different religion does not have the same traditional values as Christian does, God applies his laws on every type of people. And since Muslims took over a lot of land back in the East, it's only fitting for them that the same sword that they draw is drawn back at them.
In the Islamic texts, they spend so much time about people who do not share their values. There are like direct calls in Islam of what to do for those that don't believe, and it's a very pernicious preoccupation.
This is true. The Quran does call for violence against non-believers. Like, look at Surah Al-Anfal, which says, "Remember, O Prophet, when your Lord revealed to the angels, I am with you, so make the believers stand firm. I will cast horror into the hearts of disbelievers, so strike their necks and strike their fingertips." Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 191, says this about non-believers: "Kill them wherever you come upon them, and drive them out of the places from which they have driven you out, for persecution is far worse than killing. And do not fight them at the sacred mosque unless they attack you there. If they do so, then fight them. That is the reward of the disbelievers." And of course, most infamously, Surah Al-Janeen, verse 37, which states, "If a man or woman living among you in one of the towns Allah gives you is found doing evil in the eyes of Allah in violation of his covenant, and contrary to my command has worshipped other gods, bowing to them or to the sun or to the moons or the stars in the sky, and this has been brought to your attention, then you must investigate it thoroughly. If it is true, and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done in Arabia, take that man or woman who has done this evil deed to your city gate and stone that person to death." Horrible stuff. Except that last quote was actually from Deuteronomy, chapter 17, verses 2 to 5. Instead of Allah, it says the Lord, and instead of Arabia, it says Israel. Then, of course, there's 2 Chronicles chapters 15, verse 12, which states, "And they entered into the covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, with all their heart and with all their soul, but that whoever would not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, should be put to death, whether young or old, man or woman." It seems that both the Bible and the Quran have called for violence against and the murder of non-believers.
Okay, so for Deuteronomy, it can be explained in a few things. It's about the people who have done evil things such as sin, murder, rape, or any kind of criminal act that is immoral. And what Moses says here, not God, Moses says to take that man or woman who has done an evil deed and take them to a city gate and stone that person to death. But the stoning is only applicable when you violate the covenant, which basically means fitting, proper, suitable, or appropriate according to God's moral standards. To which God's moral law is to make you go towards Him and away from evil. And if you committed numerous crimes such as murder, rape, or perhaps you're stealing away from people's food or money or any of sorts of like that, then yes, you should be prosecuted. Now, back then they didn't have any jail cells, so what else could they do? Just let that person run around? And while this verse does mention that God said that it's a violation to worship other gods, but you also gotta realize that in this verse, it is said that you should investigate thoroughly. So, yes, it is wrong for people to worship other gods, bow down to them, and worship them. It isn't inherently should be a crime and you should be put to death because of it, but if you are worshiping another god and that god is, let's say, I don't know, the devil, is inciting that you should do certain things because like God is prohibiting you from committing adultery or prohibiting you from committing, this and that and sins and pleasures, then yes, you should look through that. In 2 Chronicles chapter 15 verse 12, it was stated those people were killed because they chose to disobey God, they made idols, and to refuse His commandments. They refused to obey God's moral commandments and to live in unity with the other Israelites, and chose to live in sin and forsake God. When it comes to the part where it should be put to death, whether young or old man or woman, that does not mean physically that they should be murdered. No, what Jesus is trying to say is that you would be put to death by spirit if you're a young or old or man or woman. And in 2 Chronicles, this was a foreshadowing of Jesus coming to earth to die for our sins, so other people's spirits may not die in sin and misery.
Even more dangerous, you go from secularism then to Islam. Because then you're like, well, we have to believe in something, and then you bring in a completely different ideology that's at odds with Western values.
Charlie, people watching us now would say it's just Islamists who are the issue. Islam as a religion is peaceful by nature, so on and so on. What's your response to that?
I know a lot of great individual Muslims. My primary doctor in America is actually a Muslim, and he's amazing. That's not the point. You can walk the street and meet a great Muslim in London. The question is macro Islam compatible with Western values? Macro. Of course it's not. There are three major reasons why. Islam does not believe in freedom of speech. Islam does not believe in freedom of religion. And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state. Those three things are antithetical to the West.
Let's break these down one by one.
Islam does not believe in freedom of speech.
Well, while the Quran doesn't have a blanket verse either promoting or condemning free speech, neither does the Bible. Sure, the Quran says that lying is a sin and gossiping is a sin, but these are both sins in the Bible as well. So are you saying that the Bible is against Western values?
No, just because there's similar text to the Bible doesn't mean they're the same thing. Because in Islam, if you try to become any sort of other religion, you would be killed for that. And it's not mandatory for everyone in the West to be Christian as well. And if you are Christian and let's say you move to a different religion, you won't be prosecuted for that. So if we Islamify USA, what do you think would happen? They would obviously bring in the Sharia law. And the Sharia law sounds very authoritarian, and could you imagine the amount of Westerners would be very mad about the Sharia law being integrated into their land?
In many Muslim societies throughout history, Jews were considered dhimmis, non-believers who were given special protection and tolerance in exchange for paying a tax. Jews have lived peacefully in many Muslim nations for thousands of years. It was really only until Muslim countries declined and faced hardships when Jews started to get scapegoated. But blaming minorities for social ills is very common in every society. Charlie Kirk is doing it right now. Anti-Semitism isn't just a Muslim problem, it's a human problem.
Now, anti-Semitism isn't just an Arab thing, I'll agree with that. It can apply to any other country or race. But we cannot deny the fact that there's a lot of anti-Israel attacks in New York recently. And I'm not trying to say that Islam is 100% of the problem, but the amount of Muslim people in New York and the comments that the mayor said in 2025, it's not a strange coincidence.
Pretty much every major religion thinks that it's the correct religion, and that believing in others is heresy.
Now, when it comes to religions, it's very debatable on which religion is quote-unquote correct. But you also gotta realize, if someone is Christian and they believe in something else, like let's say Islam, then those two would contradict each other because Islam and Christianity don't follow the same thing. Because in Christianity, they believe God is the savior, but in Islam, they believe Allah is the savior. So if a Christian were to follow within Islamic views and religion, then obviously that would be very contradicting and considered heresy. Now, when it comes to Christianity being the correct one, it's mostly dependent on everyone. Obviously, I'm not trying to say that you should be Christian. I'm not saying you should convert yourself into Christianity. That's up to you. But the reason why too many Christians say that Christianity is the correct one or the correct one to follow is because the Bible doesn't violate any laws, God doesn't teach you to do anything horrible, but you also have free will to do anything that you want. You have the choice to follow God and follow His teachings and do goodwill in the world. Now, it's not mandatory that you follow Him, but if you want to, because it is a good way of learning how to have a better spirit. If we get rid of the foundation of Christianity when it comes to making America great in terms of the laws and morality, then what do you think would happen?
So far, all of Charlie Kirk's arguments as to why Islam is incompatible to the West also apply to Christianity or any other religion. But finally, Charlie Kirk says Islam is against the separation of church and state.
And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state. And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state. And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state.
Okay, so first of all, while the Constitution doesn't explicitly say there shall be a wall of separation between church and state, it basically all but does, because it does say Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Congress can't establish religion? Seems like separation of church and state to me. And also, just because Congress may have a church inside of it where individual politicians can go and worship, doesn't mean that the U.S. government and U.S. law is religious. Politicians can have their own religion, but government can still be secular. His point doesn't prove anything. Again, Charlie Kirk used to explicitly say separation of church and state isn't a real thing, but now he's more weaselly about it. He says stuff like, well, it depends on what you mean by separation of church and state. Do you believe that there should be a separation of morality and state? No. And where do we get morality from? The Bible.
Okay. More importantly, let's forget church and state. Okay. Can we both agree there's no separation between morality and state?
I agree.
Okay.
It's just lawmaking.
That's cool. That's where I really live in. What I'm saying, though, is the church should influence that morality. That's what I mean by that. Because at some point, people are going to have to make a decision of what is good and what is bad, what is permissible and not permissible. And I think the church or Christianity should inform those decisions.
Okay, but then the Quran is also a moral guide. Christians and Jews have the Ten Commandments. Muslims have Surah Al-Isra, which, among other things, bans murder, adultery, arrogance, tells people to honor their parents, the poor, and the stranger. Most religions have moral codes, Charlie. Why are you pretending that Christianity is the only one, or the only one that says good things, like murder is bad?
Alright, so ever since the decline of the churches in America, majority of atheists are fixated with LGBTQ rights, which isn't a problem, but you also gotta realize there is a lot of men and women and trans who are wearing skimpy outfits and doing provocative things when there can be potentially children nearby. I can understand accepting gay people into our society. That's an okay thing. But a lot of Americans, or more particularly when it comes to Pride Month and Pride parades, they are giving into sinful acts such as lust that makes it a very bad thing. Well, isn't there churches that are gay supporting Christianity? Those aren't churches not because they're gay, it's because they're more fixated on liberal politics and sexuality. Those particular churches aren't interested in talking about the Bible or Jesus or this and that. They're more interested in queer culture rather than talking about the actual Bible, the actual story of Jesus. Before anyone accuses me of being homophobic, first of all, I have many friends who came out as trans or gay, and I'm very accepting of them. I am treating them how I treat like everyone else. But if they give into lustful desires, if they give into sins, I have to talk to them personally and say, hey, you got to cut that out because that's not a good thing what you're doing. And if anyone asks me, can a gay person go to heaven? Yes, it is possible. You just have to follow God's morale laws. You just have to follow God's teachings, the Bible, and announce God is Christ and He is divine and He died on the cross for us. Then yes, a person can go to heaven even if they're gay. It can be applied to anyone who is heterosexual or homosexual. It doesn't matter. You will be still having to face the 10 commandments of what God made for us. The reason why people like Nicholas Bowling goes to pride festivals is because, not because he's being homophobic or anything like that, is because some people in the pride festivals are doing sinful acts. And many people in those pride festivals have a hatred towards God. Is God telling us that you have to follow Him? No, He's not. He's saying that you should follow Him because His teachings are good. And the reason why Nicholas Bowling is going to these pride festivals is because he wants to preach the goodness of Christ. Now, is there good messaging when it comes to the Quran? Definitely. Just like any other religions, there can be some good messaging when it comes to religion. But what I can say that the Quran also, which follows Islam, which follows authoritarian movements that prohibits people from doing things.
Let's do a comparison of the views of Charlie Kirk and radical Islam, intolerance of LGBTQ people.
We must react politically. We must ban trans-affirming care the entire country. Donald Trump needs to run on this issue.
Check.
You do realize that gender-affirming care can affect your physical health and your body health? Not to mention the negative effects when it comes to transitioning, and the disgusting books that were written by liberals or woke or trans people that's targeted towards an infant age group.
Supports rigid patriarchy.
Hi Charlie, I'm Addie and I'm 14. I'm a freshman in high school, and I was wondering, as someone who has like a different opinion on college, what would you say the pros and cons are? Because I'm interested in political journalism.
Let me also speak to some of the young ladies here in high school where your top, who's here where your top priority is get married and have kids? Raise your hand. Okay. Interestingly, I think there is an argument to bring back the MRS degree. And no, seriously. And just be clear, that's why you're going to college, right? Don't lie to yourself, I'm studying sociology. No, you're not. We know why you're here. And that's okay, actually. And that's a really good reason to go to college, actually. If you think about it, I say college is a scam, but if you're going to find your life partner, that's actually a really good reason to go to college.
Check.
Alright, I'm going to explain what a patriarchy is and what an MRS degree is for those who are unaware. Patriarchy is a social system that is supposed to put men in charge, put men in power above a woman. And an MRS degree is where a young woman attends college or the university with the intention of finding a potential spouse instead of pursuing academic achievement for a future career. And you may be obliged to think that Charlie Kirk is being sexist here. I won't argue that college can be good or bad, but what I can argue is that college is very expensive in the 21st century, and you're mostly going to be prioritizing on getting your financial depth in check. And let's say a woman does get a good job. Let's say they get a good job at being a lawyer or maybe a nurse or a doctor. That is a good thing, but you also got to realize the expenses of housing, the expenses when it comes to the college tuition. And I'm not saying, and most definitely Charlie Kirk is not saying that women can't get jobs, but rather he's telling those young ladies that they should focus on getting a marriage, they should focus on getting kids as well. Because if they focus too much on their education and they're focusing too much on the work, then they might have a chance to miss out on those. Because the time you reach your 30s or 40s, you'll lose that chance of having kids. And before any feminist says that marriage is pointless and having kids is pointless, you do realize if you are a feminist and you do not have someone to marry, you do not have kids, you're often gonna lead into depressing stuff like alcoholism or drugs. And while college can be a good thing, there can always be a price for every good thing in the world. It's not that Charlie Kirk wants women to be in homes being a maid, but just like men, they should be looking for getting a family, getting married.
What's going on, Charlie? My name's Luke. I am a 23-year-old Christian conservative man. And I'm not here to debate you, but just to ask you for some advice. I married my beautiful wife last year at the age of 22. Thank you. And I just want to say I respect and admire, I've been watching from a distance, how your ability to lead your family, your beautiful wife, your beautiful children. And as a young man pursuing a marriage, I just want to ask if you had any advice on how I can pursue and maintain a God-centered marriage for the rest of my life.
And thank you for that. Number one, God must always come first from your spiritual disciplines. Honor the Sabbaths and turn off your phone for 1 day a week. Go to a church, a good Bible-based church. We have many of the pastors here that teach the Word of God verse by verse. And also understand that it's external things of the flesh, like alcohol or porn or drugs or other temptations that will take down your marriage.
Justifies war crimes.
How do you differentiate between an innocent civilian and a Hamas militant?
Yes, this is part of the tragedy of war that they did not invite, but Hamas did.
Check.
Hamas is a resistance movement and a military wing against the Israel-occupied Gaza Strip since 2007. And they launched a surprise attack on October 7, 2023 and killed nearly 1,200 people. Now, is Charlie Kirk saying that it's okay that these war crimes are happening? No.
And a Hamas militant.
Yes, this is part of the tragedy of war that they did not invite, but Hamas did.
He just explained that when it comes to wars and conflicts, there's guaranteed to be loss of lives between military or civilians.
Thinks that religion should be deeply involved in government.
Of course, we should have church and state mixed together.
Check.
Okay, so the problem with this is that Hadi cut off Charlie Kirk very quickly, and it was a short clip that Charlie Kirk was going to explain something afterwards, but we never got to see that.
Of course, we should have church and state mixed together.
Check.
It was barely 2 seconds and Hadi cut him off, and we have no further context of Charlie Kirk's further statement on this.
Thinks the influence of the opposing religion is a fundamental threat to society.
Large, dedicated Islamic areas are a threat to America.
Check.
Okay, but we can say the same thing about Islam countries out there, or Muslim countries. How would you feel if a bunch of Christian people were to move to Islamic countries and become an influence to the nation? Because there is a city called Epic City in North Texas that is centered around Islam. While yes, they banned the Sharia law in Epic City, how would you feel if there was more Islam-based cities out there in the United States? And Islamic countries out there are very defensive about their religion and discriminatory towards Christians. I understand that these people want to defend their religion, and that's fine, that's good. But the problem is that these people have prosecuted people that are non-Muslim or non-Islamic. And you know what was the influence for the creation of the United States? Christians. Christians founded and influenced the nation of the United States. And you know the Giga Chad known as Abraham Lincoln who ended slavery? He was Christian as well. Charlie Kirk is not saying that he doesn't want Muslim people entering the country, but he doesn't want Muslim influence over the country is what he's trying to say. Because if we try to change the foundations of what made US the US, then it would be a completely different system and a completely different country. This can be vice versa. Does Islamic countries out there want Christians to come to their land and influence the nation and make Christian-based cities out there in Islamic countries? Do you think these Islamic countries want those things to happen? Obviously not. I know there's Islamic countries that have the presidents be tolerable with Christians, don't get me wrong, they're tolerable, but they don't want them to be the influence of the nation or the country.
Non-believers. Well, that one's obvious. Check.
So intolerance means that he's unwilling to accept views, beliefs, or behaviors from their own. And of course, a Christian person will not accept Allah, they would accept Jesus, they will not accept the Quran, they would accept the Holy Bible. And the Quran clearly states that no one should be forced into Islam. So my question, Hadi, is that if someone is unwilling to believe or accept the Quran, Allah, and Islam, does that mean they're a racist and a bigot? If Charlie Kirk is saying that there should be no Muslim in America, then yes, that would be considered pretty racist. If Charlie Kirk says that it should be only Christians that is in the countries, then yes, that would be fascist. But he simply does not want Islam to be the main foundation when it comes to America. I know this video is gonna get a lot of hate, but here we go. People, whoever made it this far, I just want to thank you for hearing me out to the end of this video, because I guarantee you that in this video there is going to be some people who didn't watch the whole thing, or probably they only saw a certain part of the video, or they just saw clips of this video potentially and take it out of context and assume I'm Islamophobic, or I'm a racist, or I'm a bigot, or I am homophobic, or so on and so forth. And people may think that way, but that's what they think. I already know what I have spoken throughout this hour-long video, that what I said about certain aspects that is good and bad. And I wasn't completely being biased towards Charlie Kirk, don't get me wrong. There is some things that I believe that he should have done better in terms of wording and other things as well. But I also believe that he's also not a racist. You can most definitely say he does not like Islam being in the Western civilization, and that's pretty clear. It's pretty clear throughout this hour-long video that he does not want Islam in USA, because there is some components that he pointed out, and as well as I pointed out, that there is going to be some issues if Islam was a predominant religion in America, and if there's Islamic influence on the nation in terms of traditions, in terms of values, in terms of beliefs, in terms of behavior, then it can definitely affect some Westerners. I also want to state this very clearly, that if you are Islam, I'm not trying to convert you into a different religion, or I'm not trying to convert you into Christianity, because again, the Bible clearly states that you should not be forced into a religion as well. You should not be obligated to follow Jesus. That's completely up to your free will, just like the Quran. The Quran also states that it's up to humanity's free will if they want to believe in Allah. That's understandable. And for anyone who's in the LGBTQ community, or perhaps the atheist community, I'm not trying to say that you guys are doing horrible things, you guys are committing sins every day, because that would be just a generalization of every LGBTQ or atheist person. And that can be also applied for vice versa. If someone thinks that someone is Christian, someone is Republican, then they're an automatic bigot, they're racist, they support slavery, when that's obviously not the case. Same thing goes with Islamic people. They're not all violent, they're not all forcefully trying to convert you into Islam or anything like that. And same goes with Christians. Not every Christian is trying to convert you into Christianity. But you also gotta realize that every religion, every country, everyone throughout history, regardless of race, gender, or whatever, have committed some levels of violence. Has there been more of one religion or one race? Yes, most definitely. But there's also another race, another religion has committed some levels of violence as well. Now, I don't hate Hadi for making this video. Again, he has his own opinion, and while I don't agree with that opinion, at least he's being respectful towards Charlie Kirk in terms of when he got assassinated. And this video isn't to make you like Charlie Kirk, because again, if you still don't like Charlie Kirk, then that's again your opinion, but please be respectful of that. Because other than the things that Hadi said in this video, the only thing that I do not like the most when it comes to this video is the comment sections trying to justify the assassination of Charlie Kirk simply because people think he was a racist. And let's say hypothetically Charlie Kirk was legitimately a racist, and that Hadi put concrete proof that Charlie Kirk was legitimately a racist. Yes, that would be bad. But does that person deserve to die? No, they shouldn't. Because if you have a racist friend, what do you do with them? You don't just automatically leave them be and, say goodbye, I'm not friends with you because you're a racist. You have a talk with them. You reprimand them from what they're doing because it's wrong. So it can be applied with Charlie Kirk. Just because he's a Republican, just because he's a politician, he is just a human like everyone else in this world. If he was racist and say that all Muslim people should be deported from the US, then yes, he deserves to be canceled. Then yes, he deserves to maybe get in jail for hate speech or something. But he did not do that. He simply does not want Islam to be the main foundation for US. Now, if Hadi sees this video, I just want to say I don't have any hatred or ill intent when it comes to your video or you as a person. I just want to counter argue the points you made about Charlie Kirk, and you're free to believe whether or not he's a racist, but I just want to also push out that I do not believe he's a racist. I just hope that if he sees this video that he can agree on that sentiment. For anyone who is watching this and they agree that I don't believe that Charlie Kirk is a racist, please don't go in Hadi's video and leave comment sections being mean or being ill intent when it comes to him. Don't do any of that, please. I just want to make a mature discussion about why I believe Charlie Kirk wasn't a racist. But before I end this video, I want to say this. Regardless of your religion or regardless of your race or any of that, people should be equally treated. And I'm not a Republican, I'm not a conservative, because I do believe in some of the things that the Democrat have said, like equality and stuff. But there's also some things I disagree with the Democrat Party, and there's some things I disagree with the Republican Party, including Donald Trump. There's some points that I am okay with Donald Trump, but there's also some other things that I don't like about Donald Trump. Talking about them tariffs, by the way. I'm simply just a guy who's on this YouTube platform that just wants to make videos out there, either for fun, educational purposes, or entertainment purposes. But for this one made me had to like do a lot of research, because I'm not a political channel here. Obviously you can tell by my previous videos, and this was pretty difficult for me because I'm not really experienced with this. So I really hope you guys like this video, or if you don't, that's fine. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed watching this, or at least watched till this point of the end. With that being said, I just want to remind you that you're loved and you're supported. And no matter what happens, there can always be a good thing that happens in this world. Just a reminder, the Asian ghost will know. Goodbye.